Welcome, everyone. I'm Howard Powers. I'm part of the Blue Courage team, and we honor all of you for taking the time to be here with us today. Today, we're going to be talking about personal and professional Blue Courage leadership lessons in this age of the coronavirus, and how it is that we might be able to use those lessons to enhance ourselves, both personally and professionally. With me today is Captain Jack Hart from the San Francisco Police Department. He heads their academy now. He's an attorney with them, but he also wears many other hats, and we're proud to have him. Ian Edwards, also with us today. He's with the Washington State Criminal Justice Academy, and heads up their corrections training up there, and also is a master trainer with our Blue Courage team. So as we start in today, I just want to reflect back just for a moment on what we have talked about in our last couple sessions. And we talked about, Chiza talked about connectivity and what that means. She talked about our concept of Salabona, of I see you, bringing people into existence, and what it means to connect with people, what it means to acknowledge people today when we're just hiding behind masks and we're keeping our distance. But what does that connectivity mean? And then Dan spoke to the idea of mindfulness. What does it mean? And this concept of, again, can we just simply be in a present moment? Can we just simply quiet our minds and use where we are right now and not concern ourselves so much with the past and so much worried about the future, but just simply being present today. And then last week, Dave Du Bois and Dan Schmer talked about the concept of practical wisdom, and how we use practical wisdom in what it is we do in the decisions that we make. And so today, I want to just simply talk about these with Jack and with Ian. But from my perspective, as I see around, I'm not in the trenches, so I don't have that perspective. But I do have personal experiences from just seeing what goes on. My daughter-in-law is a resident at a hospital in the Washington D.C. area, and her rotation was the ICU when the coronavirus hit. And part of that is that she saw the devastation of people coming in, one ambulance after another, people coming in. Many of them survived, but many aren't. And so how does she deal with that? My oldest son being a surgeon, and how he has to deal with that in the hospital, and people that we know. And beyond that, and so we know the people on the front lines, no matter where they are, whether it's the grocery store workers or the people that are the truck drivers or the people cleaning the carts, it doesn't matter. We're all on the front line, but our officers too are on that front line. And so what is it that we do to use the lessons that we have learned in Blue Courage to say, how do we become better? How it is that we do that? So Jack, I'd like to start with you and just simply ask, how are you dealing with this personally? I mean, if you think about what you have to deal with, trying to do all the stuff at work, being in the operations center, trying to take care of your academy recruits, and yet you still have a wife and children. How do you deal with that issue, and how it is you take care of yourself? So could you give us a shot on that one?
Sure. Good morning, Howard, and good morning, Ian. And thanks so much. What a great introduction and a great summary and a reminder for all of us in the time that we're in and the issues that we're facing. And it's really universal. I'm calling into you today from the Moscone Center South, which is the Emergency Operations Center for the City and County of San Francisco's response. And I'm walking through these halls wearing my mask, and really connecting our disaster service workers, our professionals, our professional staff, our elected officials. And really, I'm finding that it's a real interesting challenge to really be here on the front lines, to be working on this coordinated response, but also taking time for ourselves to make sure that we're whole and present and perceiving all these situations as we should be. It reminds me that the most important tool that I got from the Blue Courage class that I took is the mirror. And what a gut check moment it is for all of us personally and professionally on not only how we're responding to things that are going on, but what we're putting out into the world as well. There was this meme on Twitter, and I think we're in the COVID era, but we're also in the golden age of memes, I think, if you're following social media. And one of the memes that really struck me was that during this time, if you are not, working out, if you're not cleaning your house, if you're not reading books, if you're not doing all the things that you said you would do if you had time, then you lack discipline. And it kind of really struck me because this is a struggle. I think for me, and you listed so many of the roles and that I play, but so many of the roles that people on this call are playing, trying to be the parent, the spouse, the friends, the professional, the leader, the servant leader, so many different roles in life, and realizing that it's a struggle to manage all of those things. And I think that's where the mirror comes in so importantly, is to realize that meme, while it might be true in some aspects, it lacks the quality of empathy that we have to have for ourselves. One of the core principles of the Blue Courage class is to look in the mirror, not only have the courage to ask ourselves, where must I be doing better, but also to take the hard look and really having empathy for oneself, that everything that's human is within us. And if we are feeling stressed out, anxious, concerned, vulnerable, happy, grateful, all those things are going to be coming at us really fast and fleeting in other senses, and that we should first have empathy with ourselves, that this is a human experience that we're sharing, and to then have the courage to look in that mirror and then to engage in the next right action or the best possible decision point to put out the best version of ourselves moving forward. So I'm always heartened by all the beautiful materials that Blue Courage has and puts out in every class. And it's always the mirror that gets the chuckle, the laugh, what is this tchotchke thing? But it's really probably the most powerful thing. And if anything in this COVID age over the last 5 or 6 weeks has told us, that is the most important lesson and the most important tool and the true call for action moving forwund.
Excellent, Jack. So very well said. Again, the idea of empathy, the idea of being able to look in the mirror and say, not only, how must I be doing better, but what is this moment asking of me? What in this moment, and where am I? And it comes back to mindfulness. Are we aware? And how it is we do that. Ian, how about you? Again, you are in this kind of the same boat. I mean, you got a family and you're trying to deal with these things personally. And what lessons are you taking from Blue Courage that is impacting you and possibly your family as well?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I love being on here with you, Howard, and you, Jack. This is such a cool opportunity for us just to connect again. The lessons, there's no shortage of those right now. And in fact, the lessons are things from Blue Courage that I've been collecting over the last 6 years from the material that you guys have brought, and the lessons, the wisdom that you've given the world is now finally put to the test in times like these. And one of the things that, a lot of us got the opportunity to experience in a very real way, the Blue Courage philosophy when we took our trip to India last September. And to me, that trip couldn't have come at a better time. But what really struck me in that trip was we were completely immersed in pure chaos. We were immersed in chaos. And for whatever reason, it was in perfect synchronicity. Everything had its place. It was the weirdest thing to see that there were no rules on the road. There was no directionality. It was pedestrian and it was vehicular, and we didn't see accidents. I can't drive to my office without passing 3 accidents on a given day. So it was just so weird to me that we were there, and everything was in complete flow. And the hardest part for me was transitioning back, because it was almost like in India, we were in this ocean, and it was scary. It was vast. We were surrounded by the unknown, but there was this perfect state of flow, and it made space for you. It made space for you. And when I came back from that trip, I had a really hard transition because I felt like I was walking on dry land where nothing moved. You can't do that. You can't do that. The process isn't that way. That form doesn't match, you know, nothing would give, and everything was stagnant. And I feel like over the last couple of months, we've been hit with this flood on dry land where now all of our, what we thought was very static, all of our systems, all of our ways that we've created are now being challenged. And it's forcing us into this state of flow. So one of the greatest lessons for me really comes from the Blue Courage family in our guru, David G. And one of the profound things that he would walk us through was before every meditation, he would say, if there are things that you experience, distractions from the outside, that's part of this process. It's part of the meditation. If you have thoughts, those are part of the meditation. If you have physical sensations, those are part of this process. And it allowed you to welcome in. It's not that, oh crap, I had a thought, I'm doing it wrong. And so now I find myself applying that philosophy to my approach to the new systems as they come up. My process is this, but now I'm hit with this challenge. No, that's not a challenge. It's now part of the process. How are you going to integrate it? How are you going to allow it to be with you in this moment? There are no obstacles. It's just now the process. You're welcoming it in. And for me, that's been incredibly freeing as new information comes out almost on a daily basis. It's now the way. How do we incorporate it? How do we make room for this new system, this new way of being? And, you know, not just on a professional level, but in the family life, you know, that's really allowed me to say, this isn't a new distraction or a new obstacle. This is a new way of being. How are we going to embrace it? So the Blue Courage material right now is being put to the test, and I can't be more thankful for the material that we've been given. I don't know how I would have survived without it.
Well
That's
said,
awesome.
Ian. Thank you for that. I mean, my goodness, and we hear it from many. Some are retired. I just spoke to a retired officer locally, and he talked about how that he's using Blue Courage principles every single day in his life, even though he's retired. He's not in the profession anymore. He's not in the trenches, but he's using these principles again of resilience, of compassion, of empathy, of just simply how it is we live our lives that is so powerful for him. You know, I love how you said about flow and again, how it is that we do and how out of chaos can we create this calm. And I was speaking to my daughter the other day, and she's teaches at a university in San Diego. And now that they're closed down, she has to deal with these students. And many of them were foreign students, and they had to go back to their homelands. And some of them stayed in the States living with other people, but they were all very anxious about not knowing what is going on. And she told me that she used one of Brene Brown's quotes, and that is, anxiety is contagious, but so is calm. So let's use this opportunity to be calm. Let's use this opportunity again to be in the flow, if you will, as you said, Ian. So Jack, I'm curious to know from your perspective, again, you're dealing with recruits and you're sending these young recruits, and I believe you just not long ago graduated a class, and so you're sending them out. How are they dealing with the anxiety, and what lessons can you provide for us from a leadership standpoint and Blue Courage that you're giving wisdom to them?
Yeah, wow, what a great question. It's been a challenge because we know that there's this public health emergency, and yet we also know that we have public safety goals that we have to meet. And so I think our San Francisco Academy is one of the few schools that's actually open because we're able to balance the public health and safety of the recruits, but also realizing we need police officers out on those front lines. And so we graduated a recruit class on April 6th, and we all practiced a socially distant graduation. It was the first recruit class photo where everyone was wearing masks, including the chief, the deputy chief, the commanders, all the recruits, even the police chaplain. And what a memorable time that is going to be for them in their careers and in their lives. But a few days before graduation, I spent a little bit of time, trying to incorporate the Blue Courage principles into our academy throughout, but also right before graduation. And I remember standing in front of them, and it kind of just hit me like this wave of emotion that I never had before. And I've stood in front of 59 San Francisco police recruit classes. And this was the first time that I was trying to prepare them for the field, but having no idea how to do that in terms of like field training is supposed to be taking people on, making arrests, going hands-on, doing these searches. And now with the restrictions and public health challenges, that's certainly seeping into their psyche, their field training officer psyche, and definitely impacting the policing as we know it. And as I stood in front of them, I know it's about 1/1,000,000th the size of the stress, but I really felt like I was sending them on to the beaches of Normandy, like putting them onto the front lines of an unknown threat, which we cannot see, but one that could really risk their lives. And I came right back to Blue Courage and thought of that quote that Winston Churchill uttered from the bunker in the front at England's darkest hour. And all I could think about was that quote from Blue Courage, by saying, in every people's lives, men or women are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered that choice to do a very special thing, unique to him or her and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if this moment finds him or her unprepared or unqualified for the work which would have been their finest hour. And basically telling them they have been tapped on the shoulders, and we're looking for you to bring light into darkness and courage where there is fear. And I think it really gave them the sense of purpose and connection that they may not have had walking into the doors, but they certainly had it when they left.
Yes, excellent, wonderful. Yes, thank you for that. And Ian, what about you? Again, I know you deal with your academy staff, you deal with the recruits at the academy. How is it that you're dealing with them, and what kinds of things do you do, again, that bring in the principles, that bring in the tenets and philosophies of Blue Courage that you could give us that may be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. The Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission is a very Blue Courage friendly atmosphere in that we really have embraced this. And in fact, one of the first things that we have done for our staff, because all of us are remote now, most of us are working from home. We're delivering a ton of training online. We're doing as much as we can from a distance, and that includes our meetings and whatnot. But one of the first directions, one of the first challenges I was given was from our executive director, who has been through Blue Courage, believes in the program. Director Rohr said, "Ian, let's launch a 21-day challenge." We had done it at our organization before, and we're now doing positive psychology challenges as outlined in Blue Courage. And we have several people that have volunteered, said, "I want to take the challenge. I need positivity in these times." And through that, we've been able to incorporate a lot of the other practices, right? So the meditation, we've been giving them different resiliency techniques, different breathing techniques. We're connecting in groups. We're doing that just to keep our staff sane. When it comes to the recruits, and we are doing some training in a very limited fashion, but we are still very committed to getting police and corrections officers trained. We are doing as much as we can to outline the great opportunities that this is affording us. And really though there are challenges in this, it is really exposing just how flexible we are. And the profession, criminal justice professionals are incredibly adaptive, in an environment like this. And this is a great opportunity for us to be able to highlight that stuff. And I also think it has forced us to really not just look at the professionals, but look at the people behind the badges, behind their professional titles. And so you know, we are all showing so much compassion through this. Are you okay? Is there anything new? How's your family doing? Questions that maybe we wouldn't have otherwise asked of our coworkers or our recruits or whatever it is. And so, you know, even I recently distributed out the, you know, the Blue Courage cards that you guys have. We had some boxes at CJTC, and we were handing them out to our Blue Courage trainers and saying, hey, connect with your recruits on a personal level through these, you know, and you can use these to start conversation that may not have otherwise come up. So we're really trying to integrate the rituals of Blue Courage in these times, and it's I think paying dividends on the culture.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Again, you know, I think that, as one said, is that when the dust settles again, we're going to realize, you know, just how little we need and just how much we actually have, you know, the abundance that we have, but also realize that the true value of human connection. And that's what I'm hearing you say. And hopefully that some of this compassion for our people and for really taking them at a deeper level, looking in their eyes,
Oh, we might have lost you, Howard.
Pardon me?
While we wait for Howard to get back up, Jack, what are you reading anything?
Oh, I love that you bring that up. I mean, you know,
I always get my best book suggestions from you.
I love it. Well, that's funny. And where do I get them from? The back of the Blue Courage manual with the priority 1 and priority 2 reading lists. And so I'm diving back into those things, and a couple of ones that I'm looking at now that really have a lot of significance for me and a call to action. I think the first one is Arbinger's Leadership and Self-Deception. I mean, what an amazing read. And it's set into the business context, but really talks about life principles of how whether you're judging others and whether you're viewing people exterior to yourself as obstacles, whether you're viewing them as human beings. And I find myself falling into that leadership trap that Arbinger lays out, because I find myself judging other people on how they're reacting to this crisis. And I'm like disappointed that some people aren't handling it well, or I'm shocked that people are handling it well. And I find myself putting people in the box, as they say in the book, and even putting myself in the box, instead of saying, this is a human experience. Like, we should have the permission to be vulnerable, as Brene Brown says, but also see the deep humanity in others, even if we're just connecting over a Zoom call. So if you haven't read that one, I mean, really worth a read. Even if you've read it, really great to read now in this certain age. And then another one that's definitely on the recommend list that I'm reading again, very thin book, but it's called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. And such a good book, but I'm compelled by his definition of what a tribe is. And he says, the earliest definition of tribe is a group of people that you would help feed and help protect. And a society that doesn't offer its people a chance to live in this way, lacking external enemies, will collapse upon itself. And I feel like for my 20 years in policing, I feel like I'm really doing a good job on the protection side, but I haven't necessarily been very good on the feeding side. And so, being a San Francisco native, I have taken to sourdough bread baking. And I go home from work every day here at the operations center, and I make 2 loaves of sourdough bread. And my wife will cook them. I'll make them. She'll bake them. And then we determine who in the community needs it, whether it's our neighbors or a friend who's, got laid off. Who can we bring this little token to help feed and to help protect others, and how timely that message is. And again, another good book takeaway from the Blue Courage team.
What an amazing application of those 2 principles too. I have Tribe sitting on my shelf and I haven't cracked it open yet.
I love it.
I am convinced now I need that in my life.
The bread's in the mail. I'll mail it to you. You can have it.
Yes, sir.
So what about you, Ian? What are you reading? What are you doing?
Right now, I know that this is a very small book, but I crack this book open every time I find myself at a pivotal point in my life. Whether I think it's a good time or a bad time, I know it's a time of change. I reread As a Man Thinketh, and I apply that context to whatever I have going on, just as a reminder. You know, one of my favorite quotes out of that book is, circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. And it's really a good reminder of, what is this time revealing to me about who I am as a person. And yeah. Oh, it looks like Jocelyn just had a link in the description too, if anyone's interested in checking that out.
Very cool.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jocelyn. So, Jack, again, I love your concept of the tribe, and my daughter gave me a book for my birthday recently that I'm reading. It's called Why We're Polarized. And in that book, it also talks about tribes, but it comes from the exact opposite from where you are. And what he was talking about, Ezra Klein, as he talked about it, says that when we as tribes become so tribal that we become a them versus us versus them, or a we versus they, that's what polarizes us. And what you're talking about is the concept from the exact opposite. Now, I'm not all the way through the book, so maybe they'll bring your points to light, but your points are exactly spot on. And Ian, As a Man Thinketh, is absolutely one of my favorites as well. And again, I so much to learn from James Allen on that. So we're getting close to wrapping things up here from a time standpoint. Last thoughts, Ian, anything that you'd like to add before we wrap things up?
Well, I want to just thank the Blue Courage team for everything that you've given me over the last several years to be able to help, and in any way that we can that I can assist in bringing these principles out to the world, out to our professionals who are really risking it all right now in a new capacity. I just offer myself as a resource. You guys have been amazing to me. I wouldn't be where I am without you. So just know that I am a resource back to you.
I love it. And I second all of those thoughts. My gratitude for the Blue Courage team and Michael Neela and all the lessons that Dan, Howard, David, Chisa, everyone on the team has brought forward has really come into play. And, Harry on one of the texts on the chat box says, in today's current environment, it is more important than ever that we all focus on our mindset. And how true. And it reminds me, after even 9/11, listening to Dr. Stephen Covey talk about that in these hardest and most difficult times that we have experienced, these principles apply even more so, and that we need to lean into these concepts. So if ever you find yourself doubting yourself or doubting whether the Blue Courage hit you when you took the class or that any of these concepts really applied, really try and pick one and really lean into it and really take this opportunity as a gift to look deeper into your heart set and mindset as we're all struggling through this, and gratefully have a playbook to fall back on that can get us started on this journey to wellness and thriving under these very difficult times.
Jack and Ian, thank you so much. You both are absolutely dynamite. We
Thanks.
appreciate your time, and blessings to both of you and your families. I want to thank Jocelyn and Becky for putting this together behind this.
Yeah, thank you, Howard, for bringing this. Thanks you for bringing us together, Howard, and getting us all connected in this way.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you to our master trainers. We do. Thank you all for being here today and for joining us. And we invite you all to join us again next week at the same time. We will have another webinar. Thank you, Howard, Jack, and Ian, for sharing your wisdom with us today. We appreciate you all so very much. And again, we will be posting this on Facebook. So if any questions pop up for anyone after this session, please feel free to visit us on the Blue Courage Facebook page and ask your questions there, and we will answer your questions and share them with everyone else. So thank you again. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.
Take care now. Be safe. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you.